The arena lights dimmed and what happened next left the entire WWE universe in absolute shock as Paul Heyman found himself at the mercy of two of the most dangerous powerhouses in professional wrestling today. This wasn't just another beatdown or a standard wrestling angle that we see every week on television. This was something far more sinister, far more violent, and far more personal than anyone could have anticipated when the show started. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now because you're not going to want to miss a single moment of the chaos that's about to unfold in the WWE landscape. Paul Heyman has been a cornerstone of WWE programming for decades now, serving as the ultimate advocate and the voice for some of the biggest names in wrestling history. His relationship with Roman Reigns has defined an entire era of WWE programming, and his presence on SmackDown has always meant that something significant was about to happen. But on this particular night, Heyman wasn't standing beside his tribal chief or delivering one of his trademark promos that leave the audience hanging on every single word. Instead, he was completely vulnerable, exposed, and about to experience one of the most brutal attacks in recent WWE history. Bron Breakker has been destroying everything in his path since making his way to the main roster, and his combination of raw power, incredible athleticism, and sheer intensity has made him one of the most feared competitors in the entire company. The son of Rick Steiner and nephew of Scott Steiner carries wrestling royalty in his blood, but he's carved out his own path of destruction that has nothing to do with his family legacy and everything to do with his own hunger for dominance. Every time he steps into that ring or appears on television, you can feel the energy shift because everyone knows that someone is about to get hurt badly. Bronson Reed is an absolute monster of a man who uses his near 300-pound frame like a weapon against anyone unfortunate enough to stand in his way. His tsunami splash from the top rope has ended careers and created highlight reels that get replayed over and over again because of just how devastating and spectacular it looks every single time. Reed has been on a mission to prove that size does matter in professional wrestling and that his combination of power and agility makes him virtually unstoppable when he sets his sights on a target. The attack on Paul Heyman didn't happen randomly or without purpose behind it. Everything in WWE storytelling happens for a reason, and when you put two destroyers like Breakker and Reed together with a target like Heyman, you know that the ramifications are going to be felt throughout the entire roster for weeks and months to come. The tension had been building throughout the night with various segments and interactions that suggested something significant was going to happen, but nobody could have predicted just how far things would go. Heyman was making his way through the backstage area, presumably heading toward the ring or perhaps looking for Roman Reigns to discuss strategy or upcoming plans for the tribal chief. The cameras caught him walking with the distinctive swagger he's always had, dressed in one of his expensive suits and carrying himself with the confidence of a man who has survived every possible situation in professional wrestling. But confidence can't protect you when two predators decide that you're their prey for the evening. Bron Breakker appeared first, stepping into Heyman's path and immediately creating a sense of dread because everyone knows what Breakker is capable of doing to anyone regardless of whether they're a competitor or not. Heyman tried to talk his way out of the situation using all of his legendary verbal skills and attempting to negotiate or reason with someone who clearly had no interest in hearing anything he had to say. The fear in Heyman's eyes was genuine and visible as he realized that his words weren't going to save him this time. Before Heyman could even attempt to escape or call for help, Bronson Reed emerged from another direction, effectively cutting off any possible exit route and trapping the advocate between two walls of solid muscle and bad intentions. The setup was perfect and calculated, showing that this wasn't a spontaneous attack but rather something that had been planned and coordinated to ensure maximum impact and maximum damage. Heyman was completely surrounded with nowhere to run and nobody coming to save him. The first strike came from Breakker, a devastating clothesline that sent Heyman crashing to the concrete floor with a sickening thud that echoed throughout the backstage area. Heyman wasn't a trained wrestler, wasn't someone who knew how to take bumps properly or protect himself from the kind of assault that was coming his way. He was simply a 60-year-old man being attacked by two of the most physically imposing athletes in the entire company. Reed followed up immediately by grabbing Heyman and hoisting him into the air before driving him back down onto the unforgiving concrete with a thunderous slam that looked absolutely brutal from every camera angle. The production crew captured every moment of the attack with multiple cameras showing different perspectives of the violence being inflicted on someone who had no ability to defend himself or fight back in any meaningful way. Breakker then executed his signature spear, the same move that has put countless wrestlers on the shelf for weeks or months at a time. Seeing that move hit someone like Heyman who isn't a full-time wrestler and doesn't have the physical conditioning to absorb that kind of impact made it look even more devastating than usual. Heyman's body folded in half upon impact, and you could see the air being driven completely out of his lungs as he collapsed in a heap on the ground. But the assault didn't stop there because Reed climbed onto an equipment crate, positioning himself high above where Heyman lay helpless on the concrete floor. Everyone watching knew what was coming next, and the sense of dread was overwhelming as Reed measured his target and prepared to launch himself through the air. The tsunami splash from that height onto someone on a concrete floor rather than in a padded wrestling ring was going to cause serious damage. Reed launched himself into the air with surprising grace for a man of his size, and the impact when he came crashing down onto Heyman was absolutely sickening to watch. The sound alone was enough to make viewers wince, and Heyman's body went completely limp after absorbing the full force of nearly 300 pounds coming down on him from several feet in the air. Medical personnel immediately rushed to the scene as Breakker and Reed stood over their victim, showing absolutely no remorse or concern for what they had just done. The camera focused on Heyman's motionless body as trainers and doctors surrounded him, checking for injuries and calling for additional help. His suit was torn and disheveled, and you could see him struggling to breathe properly after having all the air driven from his lungs multiple times during the assault. This wasn't entertainment anymore but rather something that felt disturbingly real and dangerous. WWE officials and security personnel arrived too late to prevent the attack, and they quickly escorted Breakker and Reed away from the scene even though both attackers seemed perfectly willing to leave on their own terms. They had accomplished exactly what they set out to do, sending a message that resonated throughout the entire WWE universe and creating a situation that would have major implications for multiple storylines going forward. The implications of this attack extend far beyond just the physical damage inflicted on Paul Heyman. Roman Reigns is going to want revenge for what happened to his special counsel and his closest advisor. The tribal chief has always been protective of Heyman, viewing him as essential to his operation and someone who deserves the full protection of the bloodline. Seeing Heyman brutalized in this manner is going to trigger a response from Reigns that could reshape the entire landscape of SmackDown. The question now becomes what happens next and how WWE builds from this shocking moment of television. Breakker and Reed have established themselves as legitimate threats who are willing to cross lines that others won't cross. They've shown that nobody is safe from their wrath, not even non-wrestlers who traditionally exist outside the bounds of physical competition. This creates an atmosphere of genuine danger where anything can happen and anyone can become a target. The attack also raises questions about motivation and what Breakker and Reed hope to gain from brutalizing Paul Heyman. Are they working under someone else's orders, perhaps someone who wants to hurt Roman Reigns by targeting the people closest to him? Are they simply trying to make a statement about their own status in the company by taking out one of the most recognizable figures in WWE? The uncertainty about their motives makes them even more dangerous because unpredictable enemies are always the most difficult to defend against. Social media exploded in the aftermath of the attack with fans expressing shock, outrage, and anticipation for what comes next. The conversation dominated wrestling discussion across every platform as people debated whether WWE had gone too far or whether this was exactly the kind of edgy content that creates must-see television. The visceral reaction from the audience proved that WWE had succeeded in creating a moment that people would be talking about for days and weeks to come. The medical update on Heyman's condition will be crucial in determining how the storyline progresses from here. If he's written off television for an extended period, it creates opportunities for new dynamics to develop and for other characters to step into roles they haven't occupied before. If he returns relatively quickly, it sets up potential confrontations and revenge scenarios that could culminate in major matches down the line. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed have effectively formed one of the most dangerous alliances in WWE today, and their combination of skills and ruthlessness makes them a threat to everyone on the roster. Breakker brings speed, intensity, and technical ability while Reed brings raw power and an ability to create spectacular moments through his high-flying offense despite his size. Together they represent a nightmare scenario for anyone who stands in their way. The booking of this segment demonstrates WWE's willingness to create uncomfortable moments that generate real emotional responses from the audience. Wrestling works best when it makes people feel something genuine, whether that's excitement, anger, fear, or anticipation. This attack on Heyman succeeded in making viewers feel multiple emotions simultaneously, which is the hallmark of effective storytelling in professional wrestling. Roman Reigns will undoubtedly seek retribution for this attack, and when the tribal chief goes to war, the entire WWE universe pays attention. The potential matches and confrontations that could emerge from this situation are endless, and each one carries the promise of violence and spectacle that defines the best of what WWE has to offer. Breakker vs. Reigns would be a clash of generations and styles, while Reed vs. Reigns would be a battle of titans. The attack also serves as a reminder that Paul Heyman remains one of the most valuable performers in WWE even though he rarely competes in actual matches anymore. His ability to generate heat and create compelling television through his presence alone is unmatched, and using him as the victim of this attack amplifies the impact exponentially. Fans care about Heyman because of his decades of contributions to the business, which makes seeing him hurt genuinely upsetting in the way that good storytelling should be. As WWE moves forward from this moment, the challenge will be maintaining the momentum and delivering payoffs that feel satisfying and appropriate given the severity of what transpired. The audience has been hooked by this development, and now WWE needs to follow through with storylines that justify the intense reaction this attack generated. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any of the fallout from this situation because things are only going to get more intense from here.